Welcome everyone. Glad to see you all. Our planet is in trouble, serious trouble. We live on a finite planet which must supply all our needs and absorb all our waste. But this most fundamental fact of human ecology has been ignored in the pursuit of endless growth. Decades of unprecedented economic expansion requiring enormous amounts of energy and natural resources have resulted in dangerous overshoot of multiple planetary boundaries that defined a safe operating space for humanity. Failure to live within our ecological means has placed the continued survival of industrial civilization in grave jeopardy, and a major course correction is required. We get some idea of the size of our ecological impact from the fact that humans and their livestock now make up some 96% of the total biomass contained in all terrestrial vertebrates combined. In other words, all wild amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals living on land now make up only 4% of this total. Every day the global economic machine gobbles up more and more of the planet, forcing wild creatures to survive on less and less. Here's another startling fact about our recent past. More than 85% of the greenhouse gases now in the atmosphere have been added in the 75 years since I was born, and more than 50% over the 32 years since 1990, when the IPCC released its first climate change report. The consequences are already devastating, growing ever worse, and still the emissions rise. Multiple other boundaries have been breached. The world is awash in man-made chemicals and plastic. Water uses outstrips supplies. Man-made fertilizer brings death to our waters. Extinction rates skyrocket, and the list goes on. Each of these alone would be a global emergency of profound significance, and all of them together constitute a planetary emergency unparalleled in the entire history of our species. Immediate, pervasive, systemic change is needed to avoid a planetary calamity of unmatched scale and scope. Time is running out, and we must act now to protect the ecological foundations upon which all wealth is built. Dinosaurs didn't choose extinction, and neither should we. So what is to be done? Two of the most pressing threats we face are the intertwined perils of catastrophic climate change and accelerating extinction rates. Their combined potential for ecological disruption constitutes an existential threat of profound importance. This brings us to the very heart of why we are gathered here today. Because honoring the land is fundamental if we are to meet these challenges. Protecting natural ecosystems is a central strategy in the struggle for a livable future. Climate disruption is a direct byproduct of a global economic machine dependent on fossil fuels, and our first priority must be to escape this deadly addiction just as fast as we possibly can. Failure to do so guarantees a ghastly future of runaway climate change and ecological collapse. But even dramatically reducing emissions is not enough. We must also remove vast quantities of CO2 from the atmosphere, as the IPCC has emphasized in its most recent reports. Here, natural ecosystems, especially forests and wetlands, are essential allies, as they are the only means now available to remove CO2 at anywhere near the scale required. Forests are already hard at work accumulating carbon, and given the protection they deserve, they could do much more and continue to do so far into the future. We can ill afford to place our hope in a technological fix that has yet to materialize. Forests and wetlands are essential allies in the struggle to preserve living diversity. Enormously rich in biodiversity, their continued vitality is critical for maintaining ecological integrity. Clearly, keeping forests as forests is essential. But simply maintaining a given level of forest cover is not enough, because not all forests are the same. It is the older, larger trees and the older forests that contain them that are most effective for carbon accumulation. Over a given time span, a single large tree can capture and store more carbon than acres of small ones. Likewise, it is our older forests that support the most living diversity. The complex webs of ecological interactions reach their fullest potential only in our oldest forests. Protecting old forests should be our first priority, but young forests are old forests in the making and deserve protection too. Continual logging on a rotational basis can increase timber production, but only with profound negative consequences for biodiversity. Logging and development both increase forest fragmentation, which increases local extinction rates, especially among species of the forest interior. A recent study in southeastern Canada has shown that even though overall forest cover has not changed, the loss of older age classes from logging has dramatically decreased the abundance of dozens of bird species. Logging on public lands is unnecessary, ill-advised, and costly in terms of money, ecological integrity, and the public good. Please sign the petition back there. And also check out Standing Trees. They're trying to protect an extensive area in the Green Mountains. We now live in a historical moment of profound transformation. Not only is the existing world order threatened by ecological overshoot, but the institutions available to mount an effective response are themselves in a state of disrepair and a grave danger of further degradation. The sources of institutional dysfunction are legion, but include accelerating economic inequality and ever bolder attacks on racial equality, gender equality, and environmental protection. Concentrated economic power and its ability to dominate debate, spread misinformation, and corrupt political processes. The emergence of neo-fascism with its open attack on democracy, devotion to white male supremacy, and suicidal denial of ecological risk. The net result is an abject failure to address the ecological emergencies that threaten to foreclose the future of all people. The very fabric of the modern world is riven with terrible cracks. Chaos approaches. denial is rampant, and we really have to wonder, oh, Mama, can this really be the end? To be stuck inside of our time with the future blues again. But it doesn't have to be like this. We can avoid suicidal denial and hopeless despair, as together we build a livable future for all people. We can and must escape the suicidal delusion of endless growth and the sugar high of mass consumerism based on the suffering of others. We can and must break free from the false god of an always beneficent market and rebuild the fragile fibers of cooperation and mutual respect as we come together as a community to fashion a sustainable relationship with each other and our planet, the only home we have. The great moral arc of the universe doesn't bend towards justice all by itself. We have to reach up and grab it and make it do that. Much has already been lost in our emergency, and much more will be lost in the days ahead. But there is still an enormous amount of the living world left to be preserved and treasured. And I ask you to join me in that task. As Mother Jones said long ago, let's pray for the dead and fight like hell for the living.